Dear friends, as you are probably able to tell, Mrs. L joins me. She joins me. I join her. And we are talking to you today, by the way, as we speak on Super Bowl Sunday. And we have both vowed not to watch a second of it. Maybe a little bit of the halftime, but I doubt that. Anyway, darling, hello and welcome. Let's talk. What's on your mind?
Happy Sunday. I did see that you put up a poll on your X account asking people if they would be their thoughts on the Super Bowl. And I took the poll actually a few minutes ago and I saw the results over 90% will not be paying attention to it. I think that's the gist of the poll. You can weigh in. I don't want to get it wrong. I used to love in the 80s and 90s tuning in just to see the halftime show, to see the different musical acts and all that excitement. And, in the last 5 years or so, as I've learned more things, I've just lost all interest in Super Bowl entirely. And especially since the halftime show is sponsored by Apple. And Apple allows iCloud to store images of CSAM, child sexual abuse material photographs, images of kids on their platform. So I don't want to support anything like that will not address this terrible, terrible escalating crisis we have in the United States and around the globe of this CSAM happening. So and nobody's talking about it. So it's very disturbing to me.
I'm doing some. Tell us a little bit about that. Where did you learn this? Where does this?
Come
Uh,
from?
yes.
First of all, let's break it down a little bit. The Apple is not the only one. Every platform, big tech, apps, games, every one of them has this CSAM, this child sexual abuse material, on them. I'm pointing out Apple because I think it's incredible that they put out an announcement in 2021 that they were going to do, because all of the platforms in the last few years have come under fire. We've had several congressional hearings now, three to date, calling them to task to help more. That includes TikTok and Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, uh, Snap, to step up and to employ more resources towards getting rid of this on the platforms. Now, let's leave that for a minute. So, Apple in 2021 voluntarily announced that they would be uh, instituting something to help scan for this material and take it down. And everybody applauded. But then there was a big brouhaha because people said, well, this would encroach on our privacy. Or perhaps as people put up these photos of their kids, sometimes in bathing suits or in bathtubs, whatever people are doing, that could be tagged as this CSAM, this child sexual abuse material that we used to call pornography, kiddie porn. But child sexual abuse material is a much more descriptive way to explain it in the last 2 years that CSAM has come into into our existence. And so all of a sudden Apple, without any kind of anything, just took it down. They're not going to be scanning for anything. They're not going to be looking at anybody's privacy. It's one big free for all. And I just find it incredible that we can't get this over. We can't figure out a way to work with big tech. Everybody is entitled to their privacy. And we are talking about adults here. When it comes to children, this is the problem. How are we, as we face AI, we're in the initial stages of this AI explosion, how are we going to be protecting children? And we do have something. The Warriors is part of the HEAT initiative. Groups have come together to put pressure on Apple. Let's find a way to work together and get these images taken down. Now, as a lawyer, what are your thoughts on all of
Well,
this?
I'm reading. I'm just doing a cursory review here. The first thing I read, it says Apple's iCloud Photos has a CSAM detection feature that can identify and report iCloud users who store known CSAM in their iCloud Photos accounts. The feature only works with CSAM image hashes provided by NCMEC and other child safety organizations. That's one. Another section says in September of 2021, Apple announced a plan to pause the rollout of a privacy preserving iCloud photo scanning tool for detecting CSAM. In December 2022, Apple abandoned the plan to scan iCloud photos for evidence of child abuse. So, is that what we're talking about? Because I'm seeing a lot of similar yet dissimilar.
That's what we're talking about. But
Okay.
what we're also talking about, it gets very complicated, which I think it's done on purpose to confuse people so they don't understand this, so they walk away, so they don't question things. Um, you have to understand the basis of all of this we will employ based on hashtags and based on, they don't employ the actual bodies, the actual people to be scanning and looking. These safety councils. That is the problem nobody really talks about. Sure, they put, okay, we're going to scan for these different hashtags. But as you know, and I know, a hashtag can mean different things, right? So that doesn't really work. Certain hashtags, even NCMEC, which is the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children in DC. I'm just saying as an example, it could be the hashtag, I don't know, little girl. I'm just making something up. But little girl has a lot of different meanings. But again, it goes back to, which they don't point out a lot, we don't have the manpower, woman power, the bodies that are actually working on all of this. They make these grand announcements, but physically there are not the people to work on all of this.
Now, again, it says hashes versus hashtags. Here is the issue, and I think all of us understand this. Number one, if you don't want to do something that inadvertently causes problems when we don't identify and articulate particularly what the problem is. Years ago, for example, there was and forgive me if I don't know the specifics, but there was something in the effect they tried to ban something where people could not talk about or deal with sexual activity with children. And a woman who wrote a blog or a diary or something, she had a blog where she just detailed her own sexual violation, was targeted or was signaled as having violated it because the algorithms could not identify somebody who was explaining what happened to her in a precautionary vein versus somebody who was extolling the virtues or the titillation of it, if there is any. So we don't know. There were, years ago, during the initial provisions of the internet, breast self-examination sites were flagged because it doesn't understand nuance. It doesn't understand jokes, comedy. It can look and see, do you see digital pixelation of something which we recognize as inappropriate or something that's flagged? I don't know. I am not expert enough in that. And I also recognize that you don't want to do anything to destroy the the sanctity of free speech and all that. But and I know, if this were something, if the iCloud kept or preserved things like or dealt with COVID warnings, anti-vax measures, pro-Trump, and I know that they would figure out, we know how to get around that algorithm. We know how to do that. Screw free speech.
Exactly.
Because this is unsafe, and trust the science. So the biggest problem that I have, and I must tell you, not the problem I have, but my benefit is that I work with you on a regular basis and live with you. And when you talk to people about the role of the internet in facilitating this, people's attention span, they don't grasp it. Why do you think that is?
I just think that we have become so brainwashed. This is what I think personally. So brainwashed and so conditioned over, I'll say, the last 3 decades of using the internet, where we're all on it. Everybody, we all use it to a certain extent. People say, I don't use it. I said, but you have a phone. So in some, you're using all the devices. You're on them. You're part of this. I think, what do I really think? I think people are lazy. I think people are overwhelmed. I think people tune out, obviously, anything that's dark and ugly and bad. They don't want to believe it. I think they believe, although the pendulum is swinging back, they believe what they hear in mainstream media for the most part, or read, which we know is a lot of propaganda out there, a lot of things put out there they want the public to know or believe. And so I think it requires a little, rolling up your sleeves and getting busy and understanding. If you hand your child a phone or a laptop, any of it, then you have a duty to educate yourself along with your child, what's going on the internet. I don't understand, you pointed out a few minutes ago, they can certainly censor anything they want. For instance, a week ago, I had a picture, and there happened to be an American flag in it. And I noticed no traffic at all. When normally it's a weekly picture I do put out. I'll just leave it at that. I do get not tons of traffic, but I do get, close to 100 on my weekly picture. And I noticed last week, maybe this American flag, somebody doesn't like it. So, I get 12 people. I just think people don't want to deal with the horror of this. But when I say this to you, what happens online? The internet is opening your front door and allowing the world in. It is allowing the criminals in. But here's what I want to say, that people, there's such a normalization now. Every day we see these headlines of a doctor, a dentist, men and women with children, abusing children, doing this to children. It's become so normalized. You think one's radar would go off and be like, let me find out, because a lot of these stories go back to being related of images loaded online, uploaded online, or things being advertised about children online, or women and girls being sold online. So that's the part, I have to be honest with you, I don't really understand. There is a lot, we have images, we have articles, we have things coming out, percolating online, and that people are still walking away from it. They have to realize it is very dangerous, all of this internet. Now, that being said, it's not going away. So we have to learn how to leverage it for good and be safe with all of this. And since our government's not helping us and big tech's not helping us, it is, and rightfully so. If I was working in big tech, I'd probably be doing perhaps what they're doing, as far as it's not their job to monitor everybody's devices.
Right.
But it is up to a parent. That is a very tough thing. There's that parental autonomy. You can't tell parents what to do, but we can offer information, safety tips. I think people just don't want to hear about it.
Let me stop for a second. I want to address something. And if you want me to stop, just tell me to stop, because we didn't talk about this ahead of time. If you go online and you try to say, okay, let me see if I can look at this. There is a current status of commentators on the subject who must use the word pedophile at least 50 to 100 times in a sentence. We are absolutely, the world is, the internet is replete with mentions of that. These are not your words, these are mine. While I find it completely disgusting that somebody would actually find it attractive, or find children or sex with children sexually attractive, that's not the issue. We had talked about this the other day. You said that is a thought. There are people who fantasize about cannibalism. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with somebody who fantasizes unless they engage in cannibalism. If they talk about it. So when children's pictures, when children are abducted, when children are violated, when children are the subject of predation, yes, ultimately maybe the last line of the consumer chain may be somebody who is, quote, attracted to it. But the traffickers themselves are in it for the money. And they're in it for, just like a slave master is not necessarily a racist. Somebody who is El Chapo may have never used cocaine in his life. Isn't a drug profligate? It's the money. I think that we're distracting ourselves from this gory kind of like serial killing talk. Like, let's talk about these people versus let's take affirmative steps to stop this. Because think about this. If I could snap my fingers, you could snap your fingers right now, and there was no more predation or no more pictures of children, or that the internet, if it dried up, you would be shutting down a significant portion of the industry. And pedophiles would be SOL, because this particular platform would be eliminated. Does that make sense?
Listen, you said a lot of things there. First of all, as horrible as it is, and I brought this up, actually, I was doing an interview the other day when I said, people think about cannibalism. You can't throw them in jail for that, right? We can't control what people
A
think.
thought.
A thought. So, as horrible as it is, I am disgusted. I will say to you, I am disgusted because I think a lot of people doing these videos, going on shows, are just in it for themselves. I'm sorry. They want to talk about, pedophiles all the time and maps, minor attracted persons, when, they're thinking, I think, about their web traffic, more
Their
subscribers,
clicks.
and they're not getting to, okay, let us raise awareness with the public. Let us also give the public the reality of what is happening. Let us also give the public steps to do. What do people always say to me? What am I to do? What can I do? We always have to have a takeaway, a resource. We know all of this is
Mhm.
horrible. We want to, the warriors, lynswarriors.org, we educate, we teach you, and then what steps you are to take to intervene, protect your child, protect yourselves about all of this predation. Because we were just talking the other day, war is never going to stop. War makes a lot of money, right? This child predation, it hurts me to say, this is not stopping. It's only escalating. It is making a lot of people a lot of money. So in the meantime, everybody needs to get on board, learn it's happening, not run away from it, and protect in their own homes and communities what is happening. Our schools are not teaching about it. So we have to do it.
Imagine if I was doing a channel and I was talking about, let's say, rape prevention, rape prevention, and I found out that I did a story, or I talked about Ted Bundy, and all of a sudden I went from 100 views to 10,000 views. Well, I'm like, ooh, they want to hear about Ted Bundy. Well, what about the Boston Strangler? Let's talk about. And then I begin to sensationalize it, and I follow the metrics. I go for the clicks. Oh, you want to hear about famous rapists? Well, then you want to know about, the Hillside Strangler. And then it becomes salacious, scandalous, and actually, in a weird way, I'm promoting the very thing I'm trying to protect against. There is a there are parents, and I've seen this with you. You can take lynswarriors.org. You can take a phone. I'm holding up a mouse here. You can take a phone and you can tell your kid, okay, because if a kid says, you've got to give me a phone, I can't be the only one. Okay, fine. I dig that peer pressure through Gab, through Chris McKenna and protectyoungeyes.org or com. Or is it,
.com and explain Gab, GABB. It's a wireless company that makes, they have iPhones and the watches. Looks just like, the regular
right.
devices without internet. Explain, what it is.
Without internet?
Gab devices, it's a regular iPhone and the watch that has no internet capabilities, but the child looks like they have an iPhone, so they don't feel left out. Because we do have a lot of studies that the kids are more harmed, but at least if they have a phone, you program in phone numbers you want in there or different things, but they do not have internet capabilities, these
You can
devices.
also for a nominal amount per month know what your child is watching in terms of they kind of do searches to see what your kid's
Well,
talking
it's
to.
a
And
company.
but by the way, parents have to be told that when you're playing Call of Duty or when you're gaming, that's where kids are hit as well. And this is the part that gets me. And none of these other shows will be talking about because they're talking about pedophiles too much. Sextortion. There are kids. I told somebody the other day, and they said, "How much money are you going to get out of a kid?" A kid's watching a game, Call of Duty or whatever it's called. He's talking to somebody. The kid. Kids don't have any kind of judgment centers. They don't know. They can't weigh pros and cons. They act without this filter, and they're there in this world of whatever. Somebody says, "Here's a nude picture of me. Send me one of you." Okay, and he just does it. Not because he just does it. They just do things and adults do things. They don't know why they did it. Next thing you know, somebody calls back and says, if you don't pay me $100 or $500 or $1,000, we're going to show everybody this, or I'm going to hurt your parents, or I'm going to do something. Now, somebody said to me, that's ridiculous. Kids don't have that much money. You say, no, kids are killing themselves because of this. I know we have a mutual friend who was a teacher where a kid had to leave the school, and somehow other kids will find out about it. Sextortion is one of the biggest deals available. And you can and we're not asking parents to agree with this or to see whether it makes sense or whether they think it's something worthwhile. Parents have to sit down and explain to their kids and vaccinate them and inoculate them from this happening by telling them, if anybody ever does this to you, you have to let me know. This is what they do. I'm not saying don't play here, but I'm here with you. Parents have to do this. But there are other shows and platforms who are too busy, getting dialed up and talking about pedophiles, where they miss any kind of cautionary tale that they can be providing to prevent kids from falling prey to this. Anyway, does that make
Listen,
sense?
sextortion is one of the biggest things, especially among teen boys, 14 to 17-year-olds. The FBI does put out alerts about every 3 months, and they say this is what to look for. It is coming out of Nigeria. Remember, we used to have the princes.
Wow.
The prince has $10 million. We want
Yeah.
to put in your checking account, send us your
Okay.
number. And this is the number one business happening coming out of there. This is where the servers are. My question and what we try to teach at the Warriors is we live in such a sexual society these days, in our faces, whether it's music, entertainment, people walking down the street just cursing. I hear that all day long when I'm out on the sidewalk. I hear cars go by with rap music, and I hear some of the lyrics. I can't believe what I'm hearing coming out of a car. The entertainment business geared towards kids, very sexual, online, very sexual, eyeballs, makes money, right? Why are kids killing themselves over a nude image? They're so embarrassed, these teenage boys, they'd rather kill themselves than deal with it. We want our kids to come, so what? A nude image. Like, that's the attitude we try to teach. Do you like it as a parent or a caregiver? No, you don't. Does the child like it? No. But we're going to kill ourselves. We're going to let our kids kill themselves. There is something, we do have well documented youth mental health crisis getting worse, but kids are killing themselves. So sextortion, this should be taught in schools. Okay, forget the
Also,
program for now. The sextortion, the online human trafficking. It doesn't mean people are trafficked and go home and sleep in their own beds at night. People have to understand what this is going on.
also, people have to recognize the fact that the amount of mental health trauma right now among kids, whether they want it or not, whether, let me get rid of this reaction, whether it's warranted or not, whether when we were kids, everybody always thinks that we're so tough when they were kids. When we were kids, we didn't do, well, so what? We're not talking about you. But when deep fakes become more and more and more and more prolific, as what happened at that New Jersey high school, kids one day, I think, are going to be able to say, "Well, that's not me. What? It's a deep fake." Think about this. It'll be great for kids to one day be able to say, if that ever happens, to say, "Listen, if there's a picture of me going around, that's not me. That's a deep fake." Oh, okay. So they might be able to use this, believe it or not, as a way around this.
The
But
tool.
how do parents deal with the fact that your kid who didn't do anything, let's say for some reason somebody just takes a picture of your daughter, puts it on something else, and now your daughter's picture is being circulated as though it's true. You can't protect against that. Parents they have to know this. I guarantee you there are more people who are aware of what's happening right now regarding Taylor Swift and the Swifties and the Super
Yes,
Bowl today than they do what's going on in the real world. Anyway,
absolutely. And that also reminds me a couple of different things. And I'm jumping all over here. I know
good.
somebody who works in a major mall, and he was reporting to me that it's not the first time I've heard this. Just random men will take pictures of teen girls walking around the mall, from the back, from the side, whatever. There have been stories of mothers chasing down somebody. They caught, they saw them taking a picture of their child in the mall. What they're doing with these pictures, we don't know, but I can tell you it's not good, whatever they're
But
doing.
it could
So,
be used. It could be just for scanning, for to be used later on in deep fakes. And by the way, the same thing goes. And I don't know if we're still seeing this, but we've seen this. There are parents. I've seen parents who say, "Here's my child. He's toilet training. Here's my child and my daughter and my son taking a shower together, taking a bath." Well, they're just
yeah,
kids.
but they will not listen about that. I have spoken to
This is
several.
Facebook.
Yeah,
They're friends because
because listen, that's a different program. That
Okay,
goes
listen. Let's
that
do this.
look at
Let's
me.
go.
Look how good my kids are. Look how great my family life
I know.
is. I have to post every single thing. People have to also get back to privacy. Remember, we're giving it away. The adults, the kids are seeing what the adults do. We give our information away. We give everybody. How many times have we seen my pet died and they want sympathy? I'm
Oh,
sorry. My mother's dying and they show a hand from the hospital bed.
oh, I
All
know.
this and so again, and different parents I have spoken to, adults, when I talk to them and they're in agreement, oh, no pictures of children online, teens online, and then I see them doing it. They're not listening. They're not listening to what they're pretending to preach. Also,
Let us do this. Let us wrap up by saying this. I want everyone listening, we want to go to linswarriors.org, linswarriors.org, linswarriors.org. And what is the section that shows where people can learn about GAB and Protect Young Eyes? Because that's the most important part of the website. Where can they, what is that section called?
there's a take action tab, and the
Take
take
action.
action tab will be resources, and also every day I'll put a headline on the front page there. But I want to
Good.
before I forget, point out two things this Super Bowl Sunday. There was tremendous controversy continually over. Again, this goes with people grabbing headlines for, in my opinion, clicks and likes and web traffic. The Super Bowl is the largest human trafficking event in the United States every year. Now, there is some truth to this, but what I'm here to say is wherever you have a lot of people, you have a lot of human trafficking. They fly in from all over the world. They are bringing kids and all people to Las Vegas. So we have to increase awareness around the Super Bowl and everything going on there. But here's the thing, what do you do if you think you see something or hear something? You have to know to call 911 right away. You have to go to boots on the ground. You see a law enforcement on the ground, a police officer, you go up to them. I think I saw. You have to understand if you see an image somewhere, cybertipline.org. You have to know the takeaways. And getting back to the parents with their children, you do not delete these images. You do not scream at your child. You do not ignore it. This is illegal. You call local law enforcement immediately. Get that report in, even if they just take a report. And then you call Cyber Tipline in Washington, cybertipline.org. You have to know what to do. And there's always the human trafficking hotline, 1 800 I'm sorry, 1-888-373-7888, because
Say it again slower.
1-888-373-7888. You must document every step of the way here. You cannot delete that photo. You cannot pass it on. Remember, everybody needs to remember, adults and children alike, anything you put online is there forever.
Right.
Many kids say, I deleted the photo. No, you didn't. It's captured. It's in that cloud. We started out talking about the iCloud in the beginning here. We've got that going on. I want to remember, anything online is there forever, even if you delete it. And I want to finish up with if there's anything good to come out of this Super Bowl, which I'm not watching at all. They are planning on running in the third quarter a commercial. I call it a public service announcement about fentanyl. And it is about a teenage girl, Paige Gibbons, who took a Percocet from a friend of hers, 17 years old, and died in her bed. She went to sleep, never woke up. So one good thing, if we can have increased fentanyl awareness, one pill kills. They're cutting all the drugs coming over these open borders, okay, with fentanyl. That includes marijuana, aspirin, whatever you can name, cut with fentanyl. We have to get a hold of this because this is a poison. This is not a drug,
Look at
fentanyl.
the
It is a
Kansas City
poison
Chiefs.
for America.
Look at those fans. Look at those fans who died
Well, we've
by
got three.
fentanyl.
Yes, we've got the three Kansas City fans. So I'm glad at least this will be part of the Super Bowl because
Good.
with all the millions of people they tell us will be there and watching, about 450,000 people pour into Las Vegas. That's a lot of people. Then we have all the people watching, at home. If we save one person, because people will say to me, why do you do this? It's too big. You can't stop it. The goal is if you save one person a day, if you help one person a day, then we've all done our jobs. So
Well,
linswarriors.org, join us, be a warrior.
well, thank you, thank you, thank you. We will do this again. Thank you for your tireless work. And I don't mind telling you, I love you. We will talk again soon.
Love you.